Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss characteristic of commonly used electrodes in the technique of voltammetry. We know that voltammetry is very important electroanalytical technique, and in a typical voltammetric cell, we know that three electrodes are used. So we will discuss their common characteristic and what are the different categories of electrode, different variety of electrode which are commonly used during the experimental voltammetry. So first of all, let us see a typical voltammetric cell. In voltammetry, we apply changing potential on the indicator electrode. So the indicator electrode, we also call it a working electrode. And when you apply potential to the working electrode, it performs a non-spontaneous redox reaction. So redox reaction is it is the oxidation and reduction reaction that is taking place in the electrochemical cell. So when you apply potential on the working electrode, this working electrode is actually dipped inside the sample solution in the inside your electrolyte analyte containing electroactive species. So this potential, when you apply it on the working electrode, it actually drives a non-spontaneous redox reaction, which was otherwise not possible. Then, with the working electrode, we also have a counter electrode here, and the function of counter electrode is it serves to conduct electricity between the two electrodes. Then we also have a reference electrode here in the voltammetric cell, and it has a constant potential throughout. So it is basically working as a reference with respect to which we measure the potential on the working electrode. So in a voltammetric cell, we have three types of electrode: working electrode, counter electrode, or it is also known as the auxiliary electrode, and the third one is the reference electrode. So working electrode is the place where actual reaction takes place, whether your analyte is getting reduced or getting oxidized. Whatever reaction it is undergoing, it will be performed on the working electrode. Then there is a counter electrode just to make a connection, and the reference electrode, which is purely for the measurement purpose. It has a constant potential, and you measure your potential on the indicator electrode with reference to the reference electrode. Now, all these three types of electrode, they are dipped inside the supporting electrolyte. Now, what is the supporting electrolyte? So, it is a salt added in excess to the analyte solution. Most commonly, it is an alkali metal salt. Why? Because generally, the range we are using, the potential range that we are using in the voltammetric technique, these alkali metal salt, they remain unchanged. They become electro-inactive species in that window of potential. So generally, a supporting electrolyte we added to the analyte solution. It is an alkali metal salt, and it does not react at the working electrode at the potentials being used. The salt reduces the effect of migration and also lowers the resistance of the solution. So, what is the function of our supporting electrolyte? To reduce the effect of migration of ions, and also to lower the resistance of a solution. So, how it lowers the resistance? By increasing the conductivity of the solution, because it is providing ions in the solution. This is a typical voltammetric cell. This is the actual image, and this is the schematic representation. So this is the voltammetric cell. We have three electrodes. This one is the auxiliary electrode. Then at the center we have a working electrode, and finally we have a reference electrode. Generally, the experiments are done in the presence of nitrogen, inert nitrogen, and inside the cell we have our analyte solution. Now let us discuss these electrodes one by one. So first of all, we will discuss the reference electrode. What is a reference electrode? Basic function of a reference electrode is to maintain a constant electrical potential against which the deviations may be measured. So the only function of a reference electrode is to provide a reference to perform the experiment. So whenever there is a change of a potential on your working electrode, you measure it with reference to the potential of your reference electrode, because it is not changing its potential. So the desirable characteristic that a reference electrode should have, they are basically the first characteristic is it should be easy to construct. It should be easy to prepare, easy to manufacture, right? Then only its cost would be low. And the second thing is it should develop potential which are reproducible, even if small currents are passed. Because if there is an effect of current and the potential of your reference electrode get changed, then you cannot use it as a reference. So it should develop the potential, and these potential they should be the reproducible one, even when small currents are passed. So these are the two very common characteristic, very important characteristic of reference electrode. So a reference electrode is having half cell potential which is known to us. So it maintains that potential throughout your experiment, even when a small current exists there. But that half cell potential that is present on the reference electrode, it is always known to us. It is constant and completely insensitive to the composition of the solution under study. So whatever be your analyte solution, whatever be your sample solution, the potential on the reference electrode is not going to change. It will remain constant throughout your experiment. Now, in conjunction with this reference is the indicator or working electrode, whose response depends upon the analyte concentration. So, the potential on the working electrode, it depends on the analyte concentration, on the auxiliary electrode also depending, but in case of the reference electrode, the solution under study, your sample analyte, has no effect on the potential of your reference electrode. Now, what are the characteristic of an ideal reference electrode? So, first point is it is reversible and obeys the Nernst equation. Reversible means it can behave as a in both the directions. When you are performing a redox reaction, that is possible in both the directions, so you call it a reversible electrode, or alternatively you can say that a potential can be exist on the reference electrode, and also it is reproducible. So the reversible reaction always represent the Nernst equation. So your reference electrode is reversible and it should obey the Nernst equation. Now it exhibits a potential that is constant with the time. So it should not change with the time. Its potential should remain constant throughout your potential window of your experiment. Then it should return to its original potential after being subjected to small currents. So whenever a small current is provided, your reference electrode should return to the original potential, and the last characteristic is it should exhibit little hysteresis with temperature cycling. This is again a very important property of reference electrode, because we are using it as a reference. If your reference electrode is not working properly, then your all the experimental results, they would be faulty. So they would incorporate errors. So therefore, your reference electrode, your choice of reference electrode is very important, and it should behave according to these characteristics which I just mentioned. What are the common reference electrodes? So the first commonly used reference electrode is a calomel electrode. It is also known as SCE. So SCE is standard calomel electrode, and here it is the representation of your the reference electrode. So if you can see, this is the half cell representation of your reference electrode. It can behave as a cathode or anode both, right? So this is the representation of half cell reference electrode. This is a schematic diagram. So here you have mercurous chloride, and it is dipped inside KCl solution, and also a mercury is present at the tip of it, and this is the connecting wire, and here we have an asbestos fiber. So this is the reference electrode, calomel electrode, known as the standard calomel electrode. It is most widely used as a secondary reference electrode. The standard calomel electrode, it comprises of a wide glass tube that just you have seen in the diagram. It is having a wide glass tube. It is fitted with a narrow side tubes. So a large glass tube having small narrow glass tubes inside. Now pure mercury is placed at the bottom of the white tube and covered with a paste of mercurous chloride. First, inside the narrow tube, small amount of mercury is placed, and then above that mercury, a paste of mercurous chloride, which is commonly known as calomel, it is put inside above the mercury layer. So that is why it is known as the calomel electrode. What is calomel? Calomel is mercurous chloride, that is Hg2Cl2. So after placing a layer of mercury inside the narrow glass tube, we put inside a layer of calomel, a paste of calomel, that is mercurous chloride. And then a solution of KCl is introduced above the paste. So for this purpose, you are using the saturated KCl solution. So what is the purpose of this KCl solution that you are placing inside your calomel electrode? It is basically provide the excess of chloride ion in the solution. Now finally, a platinum wire is sealed inside the glass tube, and this is actually placed to provide an electrical contact. And the side tube containing KCl solution, it provides a salt bridge which connects the electrode to any other electrode, because basically you have to connect your reference electrode to some other electrode which is working like a indicator electrode. So for providing that contact, your KCl solution, it is behaving like a salt bridge. This is the half cell representation of your calomel electrode. So here chloride, the concentration is mentioned, it is always 1 mole, 1 molar concentration, and you have mercurous chloride in mercury. And this is the half cell reaction. What is the half cell reaction? This mercurous chloride is attaining electrons and releasing mercury and 2 chloride ion. So you should remember the half cell representation and half cell reaction for your calomel electrode. The second commonly used reference electrode is silver chloride electrode. So here you take silver and silver chloride, and this is also very commonly used. And here you can see the schematic diagram. You have a silver wire and a AgCl solution. Now it has certain advantages over the calomel electrode, because mercury is a poisonous metal, but silver is, you can say, it is harmless. And then it is easier to produce a combination electrode. So this is also a category of reference electrode. It maintains a constant potential throughout your potential window of your experiment. This is now the description of silver electrolyte, silver chloride electrode. So this is a reference electrode. It composed of a silver wire that we have just seen in the schematic diagram. So the silver wire is actually coated with a layer of solid silver chloride, and then it is immersed into a solution that is saturated with KCl and AgCl. So this forms my silver chloride reference electrode. This is the half cell reaction in which your AgCl is getting 1 electron and it is getting converted into solid silver and chloride. So this is the half cell reaction. And it is totally independent of the nature of analyte that you are going to use in your experiment. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this electrode? So the disadvantage of this silver chloride electrode is it is difficult to prepare as compared to the calomel electrode. And the second disadvantage is the AgCl in the electrode has large solubility in the saturated KCl as compared to the mercurous chloride that is present in the calomel electrode. This AgCl is having high solubility in the saturated KCl. So it also has some advantages over the standard calomel electrode. So like I told you that mercury in the calomel electrode, it is quite poisonous and it can have a large environmental impacts. So when you compare it with the silver chloride electrode, it is less toxic and it is not producing any environmental problems with consequent cleanup and disposal difficulties, which are there in case of your standard calomel electrode. So this is a major advantage of silver chloride electrode. And the second thing is that it has better thermal stability as compared to your standard calomel electrode. So these are my two reference electrode. One is the standard calomel electrode and another is the silver chloride electrode. The next electrode that we use in our voltammetric experiment is the indicator electrode. So indicator electrode is actually my working electrode and it is dipped inside the analyte solution. And whether my analyte is going to oxidize or reduced, that reaction will take place on the indicator electrode. So one must be very careful while selecting a proper indicator electrode for a particular experiment. It actually depends upon the type of analyte you're using, whether it has a tendency to get oxidized or a tendency to get reduced. But some general characteristic are also there for indicator electrode. So when you are measuring the cell potential, E cell, it will be equal to the potential at your indicator electrode minus the potential of your reference electrode. So just opposite to your reference electrode, this indicator electrode, it should give a rapid response. Like we have seen in case of a reference electrode, it should not give response to any of the change in the system. But my working electrode, it should give a very rapid response. It should quickly react according to any change in the system. And this response should be reproducible. It means that if a similar change happens again, the similar response should be given again. So these are two very important characteristics of a working electrode, and they are just in reverse of your reference electrode. Your reference electrode should not get affected by any change, and its potential should not change. But here on the indicator electrode, we are going for the measurement, and therefore it is very much required that it should give rapid response. Otherwise, your measurement will have errors. So when we are using a working electrode, it can be a metallic electrode where the redox reaction takes place at the electrode surface. It can be a membrane electrode specific or ion selective electrode where the charge exchange takes place at a specific surface and as a result of potential is developed. Let us look at different type of working electrodes. Working electrodes forms a very important category and the success of your voltammetric experiment, it actually depends upon your careful choice about the working electrode. The working electrode, it represents the most important component of an electrochemical cell and it is serving as an interface between the working electrode and solution that electron transfers of greatest interest occur. So basically that electron transfer, which is a characteristic of the analyte, we are going to measure that characteristic. So that electron transfer, which is the very essence of your electrochemical experiment, it is going to take place on the surface of your working electrode. So basically it is providing an interface, and on that interface this electron transfer reaction takes place. So the selection of a working electrode material, it is critical to the experimental success. So what are the different points one should consider while selecting a proper working electrode? So firstly, the material that is going to be used for working electrode preparation, this should exhibit favorable redox behavior with the analyte. So this point says that according to the analyte, you have to change your working electrode. So the electrode material should be like it should have a preferable redox behavior when it is coming to analyte. Ideally fast, reproducible electron transfer without electrode fouling. So this electron transfer which is actually going to take place on the electrode surface, this should be taking place at a very high rate, fast, and it should be reproducible, and it should not affect the electrode in any it should not harm the electrode. Second important point is your potential window. What is your potential range that you are going to maintain in the experiment? See, in the voltmetry, we are changing the potential from low to high or high to low. That actually depends upon our experiment, but uh, that range of potential is our potential window. That is also going to affect the choice of your working electrode. So this potential window over which the electrode performs in a given electrolyte solution, it should be as wide as possible to allow for the greatest degree of analyte characterization. If your analyte is going to show its electrochemical behavior in a particular potential window, and in that window your working electrode is not performing, not facilitating the electron transfer, then your choice would be wrong and you cannot measure the exact electron transfer process. So your working electrode should behave well in that potential window. Then additional characteristics include the cost of the material. Obviously, it should be low. You cannot, in case of platinum electrode, the cost of platinum is really high. If you are using gold electrode, again, it is a costly metal. But if you are using a carbon electrode, the cost is really low. The cost of material actually matters a lot. Then the ability to be machined or formed into the useful geometry, that is also very important consideration here. That is the ease of the production. Then ease of surface renewable. Actually, after a particular experiment, that the electron transfer is actually taking place on the surface of your electrode. So after a particular experiment, that surface you need to renew. So in that case, surface renewable should be really easy for your electrode. And the last point is the toxicity. So obviously, if your electrode is not made up of any toxic material, its disposal after the experiment it would be really easy, and it is not going to impact environment in a harmful manner. Generally, the working electrode used they are some sort of metal, because we know that metals are good conductor of electricity. So they actually enhance the electron transfer process on their surface, and we call it metal electrode. The common metal electrode that can be prepared by using platinum, gold, and mercury. Nowadays, the use of carbon is very high, and it is increasing day by day. So these are some material which can be used for the preparation for the manufacture of your working electrode. Now, among all these platinum, gold, carbon, and mercury, platinum is likely the favorite, demonstrating good electrochemical inertness and also the ease of fabrication into many forms. So these are the two very big advantages which you're going to have with the platinum, that is good electrochemical inertness and ease of fabrication. But the problem here is its high cost. Platinum is really a costly metal, and its presence of even a small amount of water or acid in the electrolyte, it leads to the reduction of hydrogen ion to form hydrogen gas at fairly modest negative potential. So this reduction obscure any useful analytical signal. So you can see that the platinum electrode is having two big disadvantages. One is that it is really costly metal, and second is even in the traces your analyte solution is containing water or acid. Or you can say that if by any chance your sample solution, your analyte is containing H plus ion, then the platinum will promote the reduction of your proton to form hydrogen gas. And when such electron transfer take place, it will hinder your experimental measurement. You cannot get any good analytical signal from your analyte because the platinum electrode will be involved in the production of hydrogen gas. Another noble metal which is used for the manufacture of electrode is the gold electrode. And their behavior is also very much similar to platinum. They have good electrochemical inertness and ease of fabrication, but again, the gold electrode is really costly due to the cost of gold, and they have limited usefulness in the positive potential range due to oxidation of its surface. So, in the positive potential range, the gold actually oxidizes itself, and therefore it becomes unable to perform any electron transfer reaction in that potential window. So, this is a limitation of using gold electrode. But yes, it can be useful if you are preparing the modified electrodes containing surface structure. They are generally known as self-assembled monolayers. So if you are preparing such type of electrode, then your gold, this metal is really useful. Generally, some other metals are also used for preparing the metal electrode. So platinum and gold are the most widely used, but copper, nickel, silver, they can also be used for the preparation of your electrode. They all offer favorable electron transfer kinetics, and that is because the metals are very high conductor of electricity. They are very good conductor, and therefore they perform the electron transfer reaction very easily. They have large anodic potential, and yet their cathodic potential window is quite low. But yes, if you are performing the oxidation reaction, then they all have large anodic potential range. But one point that is associated with their use is high background current, associated with the formation of surface oxide or adsorbed hydrogen layers. So this is one of the disadvantage of the use of metal electrodes. Then this surface oxidation actually it becomes less severe if you are not using aqueous media. So in non-aqueous media, the surface oxide formation is less. And when you compare the platinum and gold electrode, the gold electrode they are more inert. The platinum is actually more prone to the surface oxide film formation, and the gold is preferred for stripping measurement of the trace metal. Generally, it is used for the preparation of SAM electrode, that is self-assembled monolayers. When it comes to the metal electrode, it is also possible that we mix two or three metals and prepare an alloy and then use that alloy for the manufacture of your electrode. So alloy electrodes are also very common, and they are used for addressing the adsorption or corrosion effects of one of their components. So you know that alloys they generally do not undergo the corrosion effects. So these electrodes they overcome that disadvantage of the metal electrode. They can be used for the fuel cell applications, and the electrode which is required for the corrosion at heat resistant environment. So the examples are here platinum, tin, nickel, ruthenium, platinum, ruthenium. These are the different metals they can be mixed together and form an alloy to prepare our working electrode. Next, we have carbon electrodes. Carbon is very good material when it comes to prepare to manufacture your working electrode. They allow the scan to more negative potential than platinum or gold, as well as good anodic potential window. So, if you compare them with the metal electrode, the metal can have only the good potential anodic potential window, but carbon can behave well in the anodic as well as cathodic potential window. The most common form of carbon electrode is glassy carbon electrode, which is relatively expensive and difficult to machine. So the glassy carbon electrode is nowadays commonly used along with the voltammetry. In addition to that, we also have carbon paste electrode. They are also useful in many applications. They are made up from a paste of finely granulated carbon mixed with an oil substrate like Nuzol. So you take a solvent. If you need to modify the electrode, then you also mix it with a modifier substance, and then you make a paste of the carbon material, and then you apply it inside the tube. So the paste is packed into a cavity in an inert electrode body. The carbon-based electrode, they have the disadvantage of being prone to the mechanical damage during use. The only problem with them is they can be damaged because the carbon is a light material. It can be damaged, it can be broken very easily. Then these are the different carbon electrodes. Like we can have solid electrode based on carbon, broad potential window they have low background current because they are a poor conductor of electricity. Then they have rich surface chemistry. They can provide an extensive surface for the electron transfer reaction to occur. And additionally, they have low cost material, and they are chemically very inert. So, in this manner, due to all these characteristics, they are suitable for sensing and detecting applications. The only problem with the carbon electrode is they have slow electron transfer rate than the metal electrode, and that is basically due to the low conductivity of the carbon material as compared to a metal. The carbon electrode generally we use is glassy carbon electrode, and it is vitreous, shiny, and non-porous. The good mechanical and electrical properties. Then it has a wide potential window both in the cathodic and anodic range. Then it is having solvent resistance because it is chemically inert. The results are very reproducible, and the only thing is it requires a surface pre-treatment, that is polishing, because once you have used a glassy carbon electrode for some of your experiment, then its surface it should be renewed. So what is done is it is polished again and again. Before every experiment, you have to polish your glassy carbon electrode. So here an example is given, that is RBC, reticulated vitreous carbon electrode, which is used for flow analysis and spectroelectrochemistry. Other carbon electrodes are carbon paste electrode, carbon fiber electrode, carbon film electrode, then screen printed carbon strips. They are very important and very handy to use. Then graphite, epoxy, wax imprinted graphite, and Kelgraph. These are some other examples of carbon electrodes. Then we can also use mercury, and mercury is actually historically found a place in the techniques of polarography and photometry. Uh, it was primarily used as a spherical drop formed at the end of a glass capillary through which the liquid metal is allowed to flow. And we call it what? This is called as dropping mercury electrode. So, dropping mercury electrode is very common in these techniques. It displays an excellent potential window in the cathodic direction. So, especially if you have to perform some experiment in the cathodic potential window, then you are using the mercury electrode, but severely limited in case of the anodic direction by its ease of oxidation. You cannot perform an experiment in the anodic direction because the mercury in that case will oxidize itself and it will not be able to provide any signal. So in that case, you use a platinum electrode. So a dropping mercury electrode, which is known as DME, in which the drops are formed and fall off repeatedly during a potential scan, being replaced by a fresh electrode. So here, like in case of the glassy carbon electrode, I told you we need to polish it again and again before every experiment. But in case of dropping mercury electrode, the surface is renewed because every time a new drop of mercury is formed. So you need not to it does not require any surface pre-treatment before your experiment. You can use it again and again. So it was commonly used in the past year. The first electrode many students encountered in their study. It was electrode studied extensively. But nowadays it has limited use. Why? Because of the toxicity of the mercury. Mercury is a very, very toxic metal, and another thing is its disposal creates environmental problem. But sometimes when it comes to its important characteristic as a working electrode, we are still using the mercury electrode in some conditions like in the aerotic stripping voltammetry this is used that involve the pre-concentration of a metallic analyte prior to the potential scan. So here we are using the mercury electrodes. Then many practitioners now make the use of mercury films. They are formed on the surface of solid electrode rather than the pure metal. So under these conditions, the small volume of the film allows analyte to concentrate at large values with rapid diffusion times. Here is a list of common advantage and disadvantage of mercury electrode. It has extended cathodic potential window due to its high hydrogen over voltage. It is highly reproducible, readily renewable, and smooth surface. But the disadvantage is it has limited anodic potential range, and that is due to the oxidation of mercury in that potential window. Another very big disadvantage is the toxicity of mercury. So in this table, you can compare the advantage and limitation of different type of materials when they are used as an electrode. So let us look at the platinum. Available as a wire, flat plate, and tube, and large range of sizes. The platinum rhodium alloy is known for its rigidity, and these are the advantages. But when you see the limitations, it has low hydrogen over voltage, so cathodic potential range is limited. And second thing is it is very expensive. When you talk about the gold material for the construction of electrode, its configurations are same as the platinum. It has larger cathodic potential range as compared to the platinum. Then the limitations are larger cathodic potential range, anodic window is limited. Why? Because of the surface oxidation. Again, it is also a very expensive metal. Then come to carbon. So many types and configuration are known, and it has a good cathodic potential range. Limitations are its quality varies greatly. You can prepare a different variety of carbon material, and it is difficult to shape. Then the carbon paste, so wide potential range, low background current, and inexpensive, but it unstable in the flow cells and cannot be used in the organic solvent. You cannot use it in the organic solvent; it will get dissolved. Lastly, the mercury, so it has an excellent cathodic window, easy to refresh, forms amalgam. These are the three major advantages, but it has limited anodic window due to mercury oxidation, and also it is a very toxic metal. So its disposals are creating problem. Now, the solid electrode for voltammetric measurement, they are the most often fabricated by encapsulating the electrode material in a non-conducting sheath of glass or inert polymeric material. And that could be any polymer like Teflon, KLF or P. So commonly the exposed electrode material is in the form of a disc. And common commercially available disc diameter are 1, 3 and 10 mm. These are the three commercially available disc diameters. Now the electrodes of this type, they generally produce measured current in the microampere to low milliampere range for the analytes at a concentration near 1 millimole. Electrodes with the diameter less than 25 micrometer. If the diameter is less than this, they are known as what? Micro electrodes or ultra micro electrodes. And they were suggested by R.M. Whiteman and his co-workers because they offer unique electrochemical characteristics. So, in addition to their extremely small size, they also minimize the solution resistance effects, and they have a very low response time. They are known for their rapid response. So, when you call it a microelectrode, when the disc diameter is less than 25 micrometer. Now, the important application of these electrodes are in the very high speed voltammetry. electrochemistry in highly resistive solvent and in vivo voltammetry. So electrodes can be fabricated in the low micro in meter diameter range by sealing the platinum or gold micro wires. We require those for preparing a micro electrode. Or carbon fibers, all they are present in the glass. So electrodes at these dimensions can also be produced by metal deposition or by the technique of photolithography. Their electrochemical behavior is very much different from the conventionally used electrode or from the macro electrode we are generally using. So how you can compare their effect? So we will take both the electrode one by one and we will see their effect on the voltagram. So suppose you have taken a planar electrode of dimension in a cell with a volume of several ml. If a change is made in the applied potential, either a step or a sweep from a value where no electron transfer occurred to the redox active solution species to one in which electron transfer occurs. So you vary potential in that range. The concentration of the redox active species will be lowered at the electrode surface, leading to the formation of a concentration gradient. And we know that this concentration gradient is actually responsible for the diffusion of electroactive material from the region of its high concentration, that is in the bulk of the solution, to the region of low concentration, that is near to the electrode surface. We also know that this diffusion is actually governed by Fick's law, which takes slightly different forms for changing the electrode geometry. Now for the large planar electrode, the diffusion layer moves very quickly far out into the solution, and it exceeds the distance a molecule can diffuse on the time scale of a typical experiment. Now, under these conditions, diffusion from the bulk of the solution, where concentration is constant to the electrode surface, it is nearly all linear in nature and in the direction perpendicular to the electrode surface. So, in the cyclic voltammetry, the results were obtained, and the first diagram, the left side of this figure, it is actually cyclic voltagram recorded for ferrocene at 3 diameter glassy carbon disc electrode. So, this is the voltagram obtained for a macro electrode. The conditions were taken like ferrocene was present at a concentration of 0.6 millimole in the acetonitrile with 0.1 m tetrabutyl ammonia hexafluorophosphate as the supporting electrolyte. And the scan rate was this. So next is on the right side of this diagram, you can see a microelectrode giving the results like this. So here the electrode is used for a diameter of 10 micrometer. This is the graph for microelectrode. So you can clearly see the difference in the measurement, difference in the voltagrams obtained for macroelectrode and microelectrode. With all the other experimental conditions remaining the same, sigmoidal rather than a peak-shaped voltagram was observed. And this was the result of a steady state condition between the diffusion and electron transfer, where the rate of the diffusion matches the rate of the electron transfer. So why this difference is arising here? The difference is because the small size of the electrode. The contribution to the current by diffusion from the edges of the electrode become important in the total mass transport of the electroactive species. So this edge effect, or you can say this is the radial diffusion. This is actually very small in case of large electrode. But when you are taking microelectrode, this radial diffusion becomes high. For microelectrode, the flux per unit time and area is greater than for the large electrodes because the region from which electroactive species diffuses to the surface is in the essence hemispherical in shape. So we know that the working electrode, it should be behaving reproducibly. And what are the other factors which affect their electrochemical behavior? So it is the cleanliness, the kind and the extent of chemical functionalities that are present, and the microstructure of the electrode material itself. So generally, a pre-treatment is required when you are using electrode, and this pre-treatment is actually what doing. It is activating the electrode surface. So from today's lecture, I have two questions for you. The question one is you have to prepare a list of carbon electrodes with their actual image. And the second question for you is compare the electrochemical behavior of microelectrode and macroelectrode. You have to solve these questions in your notebook. These are the references for today's lecture. So that is all for today from my side. Thank you so much.